Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive into the video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Let's dive in. In today's video, I want to tell you about the night that changed everything. The night I realized that the boy I had raised for 16 years was not the same person I thought he was. You think you know your child. You think you can read every look, every silence, every small lie. But then something happens that makes you question if you ever knew them at all. That's exactly what happened to me. Cook 1 asterisk, he was just my son, until that night showed a side of him I'd never seen. It started out like any other evening. The air outside carried that quiet chill of autumn, the kind that makes you close the windows, but leave the curtains open just to watch the rain. He was upstairs in his room, music playing softly under the hum of the house. I was making dinner, half listening to the news, half thinking about how fast time had gone by. He used to run into the kitchen with scraped knees and stories about school. Now he barely looked up from his phone. I thought it was just teenage distance. Every parent goes through it, right? But that night proved it was something else. Something I never saw coming. When the clock struck 9, I remember calling his name. No answer. I climbed the stairs, half annoyed, half worried. The door to his room was slightly open, and inside the light flickered from his desk lamp. He wasn't there. At first, I thought maybe he'd stepped out to meet a friend, but then I noticed his phone on the bed, screen glowing with an unread message. My heart skipped. It wasn't from a friend. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Just a few words that sent a shiver through me. It's time. That's when I felt it. That strange, cold feeling that something wasn't right. Parents talk about gut instinct, but until that moment, I never truly understood what that meant. I rushed outside, calling his name into the night, my voice echoing through the empty street. The only sound was the wind and the distant bark of a dog. And then I saw it, his bicycle lying by the old oak tree at the corner. One wheel spinning slowly as if he'd left in a hurry. What happened next? I still can't find the right words for it. Cook 2 asterisk, I found him tied up, but the real target was me. That night didn't just change how I saw my son. It changed how I saw the world. Every truth I believed in began to crumble, and I started to wonder what else had he been hiding. I ran toward the oak tree, my heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might break through my chest. The streetlights flickered above me, casting long, thin shadows that made everything feel colder, emptier. His bike was there, but there was no sign of him. I called his name again once, twice, but the night swallowed my voice whole. My hands were shaking. As I stood there in the quiet street, memories began to flood back. Small things I hadn't paid attention to before. The late nights when he said he was studying, but kept locking his door. The hushed phone calls that stopped when I entered the room. The days he seemed distracted, his eyes distant, like his thoughts were somewhere else entirely. I told myself it was just teenage mood swings, that he needed space. I didn't want to pry, but now, standing in the dark, I realized maybe I should have asked more questions. I went back home, my mind spinning. The clock read 9:47 p.m., and the house felt emptier than ever. His favorite hoodie hung by the stairs, the one I'd washed that morning. I touched it, and for a second I felt like he was still there, just upstairs like nothing had happened. But the silence was too loud, too heavy. I grabbed my car keys and drove around the neighborhood, checking the park, the old bridge, even a corner store. Every place felt wrong, like he had disappeared into thin air. And then something strange happened. As I turned the car around, my phone buzzed. It was his number. My hands trembled as I answered, whispering his name, but no one spoke. All I could hear was faint breathing on the other end, slow and uneven, like someone was trying not to be heard. I kept asking, "Where are you? Please, just tell me where you are." The silence stretched until finally a voice, not his, whispered, "He's not who you think he is." And then the call ended. I just sat there frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, my mind refusing to believe what I just heard. My son, not who I think he is. What could that even mean? I stared at the dark road ahead, knowing that something. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his empty room, that message on the phone, and heard that voice whispering, "He's not who you think he is." I sat by the window watching the street, waiting for any sign, any movement. Hours passed, the rain slowed to a drizzle, and still nothing. The next morning, I called the police. They took the report, asked questions, but their faces told me they thought he was just a runaway teen. I knew better. Something was wrong. Days turned into a blur of worry and searching. I posted flyers, talked to his friends, checked his social media for any clue. Nothing. Then, one night, another message came to his phone, which the police had returned to me. An address. No words, just numbers and a street. I didn't wait. I drove there alone, the warehouse on the edge of town, abandoned and dark. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the smell of rust. My footsteps echoed as I moved deeper, calling his name softly. There was a faint light under a door at the far end. I pushed it open slowly. The room was small, lit by a single hanging bulb. Papers were scattered everywhere. Maps, photos, strange notes pinned to the wall. And right in the middle of it all was a table with pictures of my son. Dozens of them. Different places, different times. Some of them taken without him knowing. My heart sank. Who had been watching him and why? Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, expecting to see him, but instead there was a man standing in the shadows. I couldn't make out his face, but he stepped closer. His eyes turned to look, and when I turned back, the man was gone. The air felt colder now, heavier, like the walls were closing in. I could hear something behind that second door, a sound that was too familiar to ignore. My son's voice, weak, distant, and scared. I took a step toward it, my heart pounding in my throat, knowing that whatever was behind that door would change everything. My hands were trembling as I reached for the handle of that second door. Every instinct in me screamed to turn back, but I couldn't. I pushed it open, and the sight before me stopped my breath. There he was, my son, sitting on the floor, his wrists tied, his face pale, but his eyes wide open. When he saw me, a single word escaped his lips. Mom. I ran to him, kneeling beside him, trying to untie the ropes. But before I could, that same man stepped out from the shadows again. Only this time, I could finally see his face. He looked older, tired, but familiar. There was something in his eyes I recognized but couldn't place. Please, I said, just tell me what this is. Why are you doing this? He looked at me, then at my son and sighed. You don't understand. He found out things he shouldn't have. We were trying to stop him before he made it worse. I turned to my son, confused and scared. What is he talking about? He shook his head, tears running down his face. I was trying to protect you, Mom. They were using your name, your information, everything. I found out someone was following us. I tried to warn you, but when they found out, they came for me. The man stepped forward. They untied my son and let us out. The flashing red and blue lights painted his face. And for the first time in what felt like forever, he looked like my boy again. But as the officers searched the building, one of them came back holding something, a photograph. It was old, faded, and it wasn't of my son. It was of me standing outside our home taken from a distance. My stomach turned cold. I looked at my son, and he looked at me the same way, like we both suddenly realized this wasn't over. Whoever had started this still knew where we lived. The ride home that night was quiet. My son sat beside me, staring out the window as the city lights passed by. Neither of us said much. We didn't need to. Too much had happened in too little time. I kept glancing at him, trying to take in the fact that he was really there alive, safe, breathing beside me. But that photograph wouldn't leave my mind. Someone had taken it without us knowing. Someone had been watching us for a long time. When we got home, the house felt different. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, filled with unspoken questions. I made him some tea just like I used to when he was younger. For a moment, it felt almost normal. He looked tired, older somehow, like he had seen things no one his age should ever see. I finally asked the question I had been afraid to ask all night. Who are they? He took a deep breath before answering. I don't know, Mom, but they weren't after me. They were after you. I think I just got in the way. My hands went cold. I wanted to believe it wasn't true. But deep down, I knew there were things from my past I had never talked about. People I had once trusted. Choices I had buried. Maybe the truth had finally caught up to me. A week passed. The police said they were still investigating, but the warehouse was empty when they returned. No fingerprints, no records, no sign of the man who had spoken to me that night. It was as if he had vanished completely. Life slowly started to settle again, though it didn't feel the same. We were both different now, stronger maybe, but also more careful. Every shadow outside, every knock at the door made us pause. One evening as I was locking up, I noticed an envelope on the doorstep. No name, no address, just a single photograph inside. It was a picture of me and my son sitting at the kitchen table earlier that week. I felt the air leave my lungs. On the back in small handwriting were 3 words: "He kept his promise." I looked out into the quiet street, feeling both fear and relief mix inside me. Maybe some stories don't really end. They just change shape. And that night, I realized one thing for sure. Sometimes the people we think we are protecting are the ones protecting us all along.